We are pleased to offer to you our next edition of the Big Bets Working Series, which we launched as part of the GLR Learning Tuesdays in 2024. Our goal in this series is to lift up and celebrate where and how some big bet-worthy approaches are enabling educators and their community partners to move the needle for children in economically challenged, fragile, and marginalized families. And so we welcome you to another one of these series. We thank you for engaging, as we've talked about, connecting communities to the internet, about tutoring, about attendance, about summer learning. And today we'll dig into teacher PD with this session called Not Without Teachers, Intentional Teacher Development for Improved Student Development. Keep on the lookout for some upcoming Big Bets Working series where we talk about out of school time and we dig into all that there is to say about some of these topics. Today, I'd like to begin by welcoming our moderator, Griselda Young Odeja. Her background is in bilingual education and interdisciplinary studies, and it's an elementary school bilingual educator for over a decade. Griselda was honored as Bilingual Teacher of the Year and became a district level specialist for the Second Language Education Department. Griselda now serves as Senior Manager at EdSurge Partner Success. Welcome, Griselda.
Thank you for that introduction. It's always a pleasure to be here with experts in the field and most importantly, problem solvers. So I'd love to get started. As we look at Big Bets Working today, we're really looking at is one of the greatest markers for student learning and growth, how teachers perform in the classroom. So we're going to take some time to dig into what it takes to truly help students learn and grow, and how to invest that knowledge and skills to implement the knowledge in classroom teachers across the country. This panel will talk about the challenges that come with that task, as well as the creative and effective ways they have approached this work. I suspect that every classroom teacher has sat in professional development at one point or another that is irrelevant, not practical, or perhaps unrelated to what they do. Our panel today will provide us with an opportunity to look at the solutions that are impactful, that are working for them, and how you can adopt these in your schools, district, and state. So I'd like to go ahead and start off with our first panelist, Leslie Connolly. And she is the coordinator of Moonshot Professional Development, Acceleration, and with the School District of Indian River County, and an educational consultant with the Learning Alliance. Then we have Dr. Cynthia Hadeke, and she is the Senior Director of Implementation and Client Success at AIM, Institute for Learning and Research. She has served as a teacher, school leader, State Department of Education consultant, and also an implementation specialist. Following is Jill Hoda, and currently she serves as one of Mississippi Department of Education's Assistant State Literacy Coordinators. And in her role, she provides ongoing support to promote grade level reading to teachers, administrators, literacy coaches, and professional guidance and resources to regional literacy coordinators. The last two folks, we have Kiara Orange Jones. She is the Chief Executive Officer of Teach Plus. She sets the organization's vision and impact strategy and leads its work to develop and advance teachers, leaders in education, policy, and practice, build a more equitable and excellent education for students through change and innovation, and elevate the teacher leadership movement and the profession. Last but not least is Elizabeth Woody Remington, which will also be using her name Liz throughout as well, is one of the three original founders of the Learning Alliance. She has a BA in English Literature from the University of Delaware and a master's in special education, learning disabilities from American University, and is a former member of the board of directors for the International Dyslexia Association. Very, very excited to have these folks. You guys are really in for a treat. And so what we want to do is start with the right. We want to start with the why, and just, teachers are the front line in turning curricula and instructional material into learning. The better prepared they feel, the better prepared the students will be, and the better outcomes. Their effectiveness is key to learning and addressing the learning and recovery needs that the pandemic highlighted. So I want to go ahead and turn to Cindy with our first question. And for you, with many veteran teachers leaving the field, who is picking up this essential work and what do they need to be effective?
Thank you very much. One of the most important things I think we all know it's happening in America right now in schools everywhere is that we are having a teacher crisis. And right now we have more and more teachers coming to the profession through an alternate certification. And as alternate certification grows, there are some things that school leaders and school staff need to be very aware of when it comes to the science of reading to make their impact more effective. One of the first things is, I will say, is from one of my favorite researchers, Louisa Moats, and she says that teaching is rocket science. And we need to have people coming into our profession who are coming in through alternate routes understand the depth and the complexity of teaching reading. Reading instruction is one of the core capabilities of any teacher in an elementary building. We need to understand and support teachers with implementing evidence-based reading instruction. And we do that through several ways. We provide those teachers, our current staff who are come through our regular certification and our alternate staff teachers with high quality and evidence-based professional learning. That professional learning has to be rooted in scientifically based reading instruction, and the participants need to be able to demonstrate their learning. We also want to provide school districts with resources to support implementation of high quality professional development and how to sustain the growth of that reading instruction through literacy coaches and instructional coaching through literacy leadership with principals. And then we want to make sure that all teachers not only have that background in the science of reading, but they also are provided with those high quality instructional materials that ground their learning into practice in the classroom every day.
Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. We do. I love that you spotlighted the fact that we do have a very alarming need for teachers, and that other, folks in other professions are willing to jump in, but always with launching them with the appropriate PD, to be successful. I do also want to go ahead and share here a little bit more with Jill. What about the experienced teachers? So, we have our alternative certification, but what do they need from professional development? Similar to how we have differentiation for students, we're going to need differentiation for our educators as well.
I think that we have to have courageous conversations and look at the way things were done and how things should be done. Several decades ago when I went through my ed prep program, it looked drastically different. Some of the strategies and practices that I learned in the 90s. And what Cindy said is exactly what we need to do. We need to make sure that not only new teachers, but also veteran teachers are grounded in the science of reading. In Mississippi, when the Literacy-Based Promotion Act was passed about 13 years ago or 11 years ago, we really started focusing on making sure that teachers had opportunities to receive professional learning in the science of reading. And I think that word has already begun to be tossed out synonymously with some other things. We need to understand what the science means. It is that we are learning how children learn how to read, the research, the decades of research. So what we've done in Mississippi is we've partnered with AIM, and there's a slide that I'm going to show you that talks about the levels, and Cindy may even want to jump in and talk about the difference in the levels. But all of our teachers in Mississippi are able, from the Mississippi Department of Education standpoint, to attend these trainings. So we actually pay for these trainings as professional development in our state. And the first level for teachers is Pathways to Proficient Reading. And then, as well as administrators, can also take Pathways to Literacy Leadership. And what happens when they finish that level one, they're able to unlock the next level. So after they've completed that year-long course, teachers are able to either do Pathways to Structured Literacy or Pathways to Proficient Writing. And we know that it's an application-based practice to support their teaching so that we can produce more proficient readers. And so to be able to increase the number of proficient readers, we have to commit to investing in this professional learning from the agency's perspective. So as far as veteran teachers, we need to make sure that we're also offering those professional learning opportunities for anyone. Cindy,
Thank
did you want to talk about the difference in the structured
Yes.
literacy? I wanted to give you the opportunity to do
Yes,
that.
thank you. I appreciate that, Jill. Thank you very much. Our Pathways to Proficient Reading course is our basic knowledge building course on the science of reading. It helps teachers understand what the foundation, evidence base, and those years of research says about reading instruction. It also gives instructional scripts. It gives resources that are easily to download and implement immediately, because our goal with this course is not only that you learn it, but you turn it around and put it into practice into your classroom. The next level with Pathways to Structured Literacy is a much deeper dive into that structured literacy practice. Structured literacy, we know it has steps that you want to ensure. Our structured literacy course comes with resources that are used as a tier 2 and a tier 3 supplemental instructional resource. The resource book has teacher scripts, downloadables, student activities. So it's that really deep dive into that structured literacy lesson plan, what teachers need to do and how they need to teach it. And then finally, our Pathways to Proficient Writing class is for teachers who teach writing, and that's for anyone. We really focus on grades K through 5, but it's very, very effective for any teacher who is going through and struggling with getting productive student writing in the classroom. And I'm just going to close off by saying our Pathways to Literacy leadership course is a small snippet of Pathways to Proficient Reading, but it's more focused on the implementation and the ongoing support and success of evidence-based reading instruction in classrooms.
Excellent. Thank you, Jill and Cindy. I know that teachers are always looking for turn-ready, resources and professional development that's going to be ready to go and applicable sooner rather than later. So I commend your team for all the work that you have put into place. And then for our participants, all of the resources are going to be available to you with the recording as well. So just wanted to clarify that as well. Extending a little bit more on just what teachers need, I'm going to turn it over to Liz. With new teachers in the workforce who haven't completed traditional teacher education programs and veteran teachers, many needing to learn the same thing, how do you create an environment that allows for this work to be done?
That is a great question. How do you go from PD to practice to student performance? And as Nicole Patenteri calls it, translational science. What does it take to really to go from one to the other? And what we have found here, obviously PD that is supported by the leadership, job embedded professional development that is collaborative, intentional, and sustained in multi-levels over multi-years. One thing that has worked is collaborative planning and getting the teachers together regularly to plan together. But in that you have really intentional, quick professional development. But our district is fortunate that we have a real systems change leader, superintendent now that is really built in data-driven, accountable learning cultures that are focused on instructional excellence. And I would say that one thing that we have here is real systemic coaching model that is across the system at every level and at every layer. So, this is complex. So coming at it in multiple levels, multiple directions, and with multiple stakeholders. We're unique because we are in partnership. We're a nonprofit, but we are a partnership with the community and with the school district in service of our 90% moonshot goal.
Thank you, Liz. It's really having to be in that mindset of evolution and making sure that everybody from district all the way down to leadership at the campus level and into the classroom is buying into something that is set up and structured. I know that in ALEAF, we launched this sheltered instruction observational protocol. And so we had an expert come in to kind of support that process and really get into the mindset of the adult learner. And Martha was great about that. And we also were able to, do peer-to-peer feedback loops and, peer-to-peer coaching. And so it seems as though that's similar to what you all have established, and that's why you're achieving the great levels of success. So thank you for that feedback, Liz. So now that we know that we have, different learners, different educators coming from different, knowledge bases, we want to know, how are we doing, right? So there's a problem now. We're striving to be problem solvers, and we know what's working. So if I may turn it over to Kira at Teach Plus, you have been looking at teacher professional development on a national level, and what has your team learned?
It's a good question, Griselda, and thank you for it. So in our experience, teachers want to do right by their students, and they want to teach using the most evidence-based literacy strategies, right? Like, despite, some of the misunderstandings that teachers want something different than that, or that, challenges, real legitimate challenges that teachers face when they are facing lots of implementation hurdles that may make them less likely to believe that this is a good use of time. We find that those are particular challenges that can be overcome, and that at the core of it, teachers really do want to use the most evidence-based literacy strategies, right? So what they need are high quality professional learning opportunities to specifically collaborate with peers as they work to incorporate new techniques into their classrooms, right? So Teach Plus recently completed a survey of 300 elementary literacy teachers across 24 states, and we'll be publishing this report later on this summer. But in the meantime, I wanted to preview a few of the findings because I thought they would be really helpful to our discussion. So I took a few notes. So the first is, teachers report that they have received more training in, feel more comfortable with, and are spending more time on vocabulary and reading comprehension than they do on phonics, phonemic awareness, and fluency, right? The second is, across all states, almost 40% of teachers we surveyed report that they do not receive currently any job embedded coaching that supports their instruction in teaching all 5 of the pillars of reading, right? And finally, I think my theory is, this is in part why Teach Plus teachers in many of our states, right, are raising their hand to take on particular advocacy, to advocate for legislation, and ultimately working alongside state agencies on effective implementation of science of reading. And that's in Pennsylvania, California, Illinois, for example, all where we have found teachers to have deep desire to advocate for these types of changes.
That's great. Thank you. And I feel like the educators, as far as, anytime they're in that evolution and learning phase, it's really key to have that safe space for them to make those errors, just like we want a safe space for the kids to try their learning and make those mistakes, all for growth, right? So I appreciate your team at Teach Plus, making sure that all of that is accountable as well, and that, teachers are responding positively to that. So thank you, Kira. Jill, what about in the state of Mississippi? Lots of positive things going on there. How are you all supporting your teacher development?
Well, Liz and Kira both mentioned my favorite word, and it's coaching. And it's so important to focus on job embedded coaching. Every teacher deserves that in my eyes. And so if we are not providing job embedded coaching, I don't think that we're doing the right things as leaders. We have to make sure that we're providing the coaching that they need in the buildings where they are, not just standalone professional development. So one thing that we've done is making sure that we're providing that through the agency. We identify schools and we send out coaches to these schools. These coaches work in these schools 2 to 3 days a week. They help with PLCs, they help with professional learning opportunities. They do the coaching cycle in the classroom, which includes your observations, your modeling, of course, your pre-conferences, your post-conferences. And so it's essential in the whole thought process of what professional learning looks like to focus on where does coaching fall into that spectrum. We certainly don't want to just provide professional learning opportunities where teachers go and sit. And I think Hillary may have mentioned it before. They come back with their binder and they just put it right back on the shelf, and then they go back to doing whatever they were doing prior to. And so that job embedded coaching is where the rubber meets the road. That's where we're going to see things change. That's where we're going to see practices applied. So we can sit and talk about all of the things that we offer from an agency all day, but the job embedded coaching is really where differences are made.
Excellent. And it is, and whether it's, folks coming from the state or folks coming from programs such as AIMS to help or peer-to-peer coaching, it just reaffirms, right, their knowledge and it reaffirms their practice. And so I think that's really key there for educators and for leadership to really give that coaching mentality a solid shot, right? And not just try it for a little bit, but just let it run until those success rates are there. Thank you. Liz, what about what's worked to improve teacher practice for your team?
Definitely the job embedded coaching has a huge impact, having coaches not only in the K-2 space in our district. That is something that we fund and we support. Embedded here at the Moonshot School, which is a pilot school to really look at how can a district maybe build up one school as its lab school, its model school for teacher professional development, and really go deep with resources and coaching and professional development experiences, and then translate that back out into the system in terms of knowledge or human capital that has the skills that they need. But the other thing is, how do you train up the coaches, building a coaching academy at the district level that makes sure that you're constantly onboarding and deepening and building the knowledge and skills that your coaches need is important. We also have partnered with AIM here at the Moonshot School. And we've done it a little differently. This notion that learning, just like you mentioned, I believe for students should be public, visible, shared, supported, right? And harnessing that power of social learning. We have plaques outside of every teacher's door, and they have an opportunity, and the intention is set that they take some of the AIM micro-credentials. And we fund that, and once they take that micro-credential and demonstrate that they've put the learning into practice, and the coach is there to acknowledge that, yes, we've learned a thing, and then we did a thing, they get a badge that sits outside of their door. And they also get $250 from the Learning Alliance, just as a way of saying, hey, we value that you invested your time outside of the school day, outside of the system, but that you've helped, deepen your knowledge, and you've translated that into practice.
Excellent. Thank you, Liz. And I think that's important to call out, teacher incentive programs, or just the incentive. A lot of teachers are incentivized by growth, professional growth, right? So if they do complete, all of the steps and all of the program, that they could perhaps receive an opportunity to become leadership at some point. And so I think that coaching clinic that you all put on is really going to help entice more people, and it sounds like you're going in the right direction. I'd love to hear what's going on in Indian River School District. Leslie, what have you guys done, and how are you all progressing?
So Liz actually gave a big overview for the Indian River School District and kind of the systems that we have in place. And our superintendent, Dr. Moore, he actually really values coaching, which is huge. So we have buy-in from, top level down, and everybody gets coached. So it's a very systematic coaching model here. But what we're doing at the Moonshot School, as Liz was saying, we're kind of that hub of learning. And so we get to try things. Okay, what's going to work? And then how can we scale that out? That's kind of the bigger goal. So what we did first, as Cindy was saying, we have so many teachers coming into the profession with alternative certification, right? And even if you have been teaching for the past 10 to 15 years, you probably didn't go to school and really learn the science of reading. So we're really So we're really trying to build our teachers up and build that capacity. So we started this year off with a summer literacy institute, and we had about 85% of our staff attend. And that was really doing the foundational knowledge for the science of reading with our staff. And it was also to help build that culture of learning as well. And we focused on the learning environment within our classrooms and building community with our classes. And then everything is followed up with coaching. So we have collaborative planning as one of our impact strategies that we have as a district. But here at the Moonshot School, we actually go a little deeper and more with it. We have collaborative planning for ELA once a week. We also have collaborative planning for math once a week, about 45 minutes. But every 6 weeks, we have worked it into our schedule to where teachers are able to have from 8 o'clock to 9:15, Monday through Friday, to really dive deeper into the curriculum, do little mini PDs from our many professional learning opportunities for our teachers and our coaches. They facilitate that, and it's based on what they're seeing within the grade level. So it's really diagnostic in how we give the professional learning. And then we are able to apply it right then and there into our lesson planning and our collaborative planning. So we have our specials teachers take over for about a half hour so that they get that extra almost 6 hours of planning a week for ELA. And we're really starting to see impact with that.
I love it. It's very similar to and honestly, surprisingly, a lot of districts across the country and schools aren't really doing the whole collaborative planning, but there's so much value to that aside from just knowledge transfer. It's also building community within your educators, right? You get to know them a little bit better. You get to, problem solve with them. You get to know a little bit more about the kids in the next classroom that you engage with. But it's so important to take that time and connect with folks. Language and implementing dual language and A-Leaf. You just need to be in the work with them, and you get a little bit more buy-in when you're in the work and getting your hands dirty with educators. So I appreciate your team, Leslie. Sounds like it's exactly what is going to make the most benefit for the kids and for the teachers. Cindy, what are some structures and supports that are needed in order to make these great ideas a little bit more effective?
Well, as we've heard from all these great panelists, I think one of the most effective tools is coaching. Coaching is a piece of the puzzle that we need to support that allows teachers to have that confidant, to have that person that is non-evaluative, that allows a teacher to do what we here at AIM call learn, practice, apply. I'm going to learn this, I'm going to practice it with support of a coach, and then I'm going to apply what I've learned. However, one of the most important things for support is we need to understand adult learning theory. Teachers have so much on their plates right now. And if we as leaders aren't cognizant of what adult learning theory encompasses, putting teachers through an ineffective professional development will show negative evidence in your classrooms. So we want to make sure that, because adult learning, the first thing adult wants to know when they learn is, how can I use this information? And how will what I learn be applicable to my classroom? How soon can I implement what I've learned? So having professional learning opportunities that align to these theories is going to be critical for support and for moving forward. And finally, having school principals act as true instructional leaders in their building, where they develop that climate, where the school is viewed as that place of learning, that students come first and adults need to be prepared to teach them. Have that climate of collaboration, treating all faculty with that respect, and helping them grow and become more confident in that science of reading. Including having that leadership team to discuss data and work through PLC information. all of this circles around that professional development, ensuring that all literacy teaching and learning is one of the most powerful levers they can pull in this process of adult learning. So I think keeping adult learning in the front of your mind, having engaging professional development, making sure your coaches are well supported and well trained, and then making sure your school leaders understand the importance of the science of reading.
Lovely stated, Cindy. Thank you for that. It's important for everybody to be on the same page as you grow. It's okay to make mistakes, but always anchoring it in the foundations that we want educators to have on reading. So thank you for that. So we've already spent a little bit of time on, what the problem is, the solutions, what's going on, what are we trying to do to make things work as it, relates to professional development. But with everything, we're going to come across some roadblocks, some challenges, and we want to know, how are folks attacking that and making sure that the solution keeps going forward. So with that, I'd love to start with Jill. What are the challenges that states, districts, and schools are facing, and how can you creatively solve them?
I know that in our state, we have trained about 20,000 teachers now in the science, which is amazing over the past decade. And so now, and I'm going to quote Louisa Moats too, Cindy, she says, we have to know enough about the science of reading to be able to have a vigorous critique about those practices, programs, and approaches that just don't work. And so for us in the state of Mississippi, we've had a large high quality instructional material push within the last few years, and making sure that teachers know enough about the science to be able to look at the curriculum that their district or school has adopted and make sure that they're doing the right things. Because, and I'm just going to say, when you speak to vendors, you hear a lot of, we try to please both camps. And in Mississippi, we're not a both camps state. We're a structured literacy state. So making sure that our teachers know enough about the science that when they get those high quality instructional materials, that we're walking them through the professional learning and we're coaching through unit internalization on what pieces of those curricula actually align to the science. I do have slides on our most recent series, high quality instructional material series, and it's not just about the materials that we've purchased. It's about making sure, and that's our state data. I'm not sure, it says part 1, the slide says part 1, but the high quality instructional materials science of reading series doesn't just focus on implementation or adoption. It focuses on what writing should look like, what types of assessments should we be using, why is it important to follow the scope and sequence, and pulling out what complex text is and progression of complex text. And if you'll click and just go to the next slide, we even get really down and dirty on the difference of balanced literacy and structured literacy, because how are we going to help teachers identify effective practices if you can't help them identify the ineffective practices? So we really focus on those conversations in PLCs as well as our statewide professional development. We even go as granular as statewide small group guidance. How are we making sure that teachers know that we shouldn't be leaving children outside of their area, but to become independent contractors for large amounts of time? So what does that shift look like? So there's just a lot of shifts that we discuss as far as once we know the science, we have to take whatever we've adopted and we have to be able to look at that through a science of reading lens, if you will, from one camp in our state. And so then what does that professional learning cycle look like with our PLCs? It can't always focus on another piece of content. Sometimes it has to be just a planning PLC where you sit down and you help those teachers annotate their plans. And so the PLC cycle looks different with our coaching model. Like I said, our coaches are in there 2 to 3 days a week, and they're not just the teachers in the classroom. They're there to support the teachers in the classroom. We have a saying that I always talk about on podcasts: don't give our coach a walkie-talkie. We're not an assistant principal. We're there to support the teachers. And so making sure that our professional learning sets up that culture of positive professional learning. So one of our solutions is this series and making sure that teachers know enough about the science to be able to use their curriculum wisely.
Excellent. Yeah, it's really important to have that culture of, it's not an I got you moment, it's an aha moment, right? Whether they misinterpreted the information or the strategy, you're there to enable them to make that shift and move it to the direction that they need. Or if it's a content issue, you know, addressing it then and there's no better time than immediate feedback. So excellent. Cindy, if you could add a little bit more, how has AIM become a partner in supporting this work? I know there's a lot of cross collaboration going on, and I love it. And so I just want to hear a little bit more.
Thank you. We are proud of our state partnerships. As you've heard, we partner proudly with the Mississippi Department of Education, and we are currently in Mississippi right now providing training to teachers and leaders there. We also partner with other state Department of Education, but it's not just state level partners that we value. We value our school district partners as well. We have partners in some of the largest school districts in the country, like the New York City Department of Ed, and in Louisiana, we have our Jefferson School Board, who is the largest, one of the top 100 school districts in the country. So having that partnership is effective. Now, not only the partnership, but we have to be able to understand and work with partners, because we all know that that valuable ESSER funding that came through for professional learning is ending at the end of 2024. And what we need to do, and what AIM's view is we have to work in partnership, tandem with our partners. We have to help them see what they are gleaning from this professional development and how they can continue to grow their teachers. We want to make sure their stakeholders understand the importance of the opportunity that they've had to participate in this professional development. And then we work with partners to ensure that we bring up ideas for funding, school district funding. How can we braid funding, for example, like Title I and Title II funding? How can we ask nonprofits to join in? There are lots of ways in which we support our partners with looking at alternatives for funding. And the last thing I want to say is that we want to make sure that all training is grounded in research. So one of the things that Jill and Leslie have been saying over and over is that coaching has to have these guidelines and support. And one of the things that AIM has that we're really proud of is our research advisory board. And our research advisory board really instructs our coursework. They help frame some of our questions that we get from school districts and partners across the country. Our research advisory board meets on a regular basis, and they help problem solve with our school in Philadelphia and with our company so that we can provide relevant and purposeful professional development.
Great, thank you. And we appreciate you bringing up the funding scenario. I know that's always top of mind for leaders, but there are a lot of creative ways that you just shared for them to think about. And I'm sure with some of the resources, that could be a conversation that you have with folks that are interested. So thank you, Cindy. We'll turn it over to Kira now. How has Teach Plus empowered and equipped teachers to engage with professional development? What are some key findings there?
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge, Cindy, you referenced Jefferson Parish, which is doing some of the most prolific work, I would argue, in the state. It's our largest district in the state of Louisiana, and it's been magnificent to see the progress. So thank you for your partnership there. And it's also fantastic to just be a part of a conversation with so many different exciting state and then also district examples of where this is happening, because it proves that this can happen at scale, right? Like this is actually possible. The work that districts and states have taken on to really accelerate this in partnership with educators doesn't have to remain like an outlier example, but rather could become the norm. And I think it's really exciting that we are well on our way. So, while initially we of course believe that, experts need to be positioned to drive this type of professional learning, what we have found is that teachers trust other teachers the most, right? That shows up again and again when we survey educators, and they trust them to provide professional learning and to essentially be responsible for leading continuous improvement efforts and professional learning communities to help teachers incorporate new skills into their practice in general, right? So one example of an effective teacher-led literacy intervention is the School District of Philadelphia. And in that district, Teach Plus worked with 5 different elementary schools in partnership with our Teach Plus teachers and school leaders to basically adopt a model that selected, trained, and coached teacher leaders in each of the grade levels to lead teams focused on increasing literacy outcomes, right? And over a 3-year period, the Teach Plus program in Philadelphia saw growth on every major indicator related to early literacy metrics for K-3 students across all 5 schools, outpacing even the other sort of school district of Philadelphia schools that were not adopting a teacher-led professional development model. And we believe that there's really like 5 key elements of the success when we unpack that example in partnership with the district. The first was that providing targeted leadership coaching and professional development for team leads is essential. And that's been spoken about at length here today. And I know we all agree with that. The second is implementing effective teacher-led meetings so that teachers can actually have the opportunity to collaborate and hold each other accountable, right? The third is just ensuring teacher voice and inclusion in school-wide decision-making and ensuring that that is then applied to an evidence base, right? But that teacher voice ultimately really matters. And then obviously, the prioritization to sort of emphasize equity in all aspects of the work has come up again and again. But again, there are so many different examples, proof points to draw from, those incredible ones here referenced, or the School District of Philadelphia. But we certainly know that it's possible and that it's happening. And we certainly believe at Teach Plus that we have a better shot at achieving it when we actually really consider and think about the unique role of teacher leadership in that equation.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And accountability is such a big piece, right? Not only holding, yourself as an educator accountable, but your neighbor as well, right? And so thank you for that great insight. We've heard a lot of solutions here already from Jill, Cindy, and Kira. We know also, Leslie, you have a powerful model as well that you've used to support teachers leading other teachers in your demonstration classrooms. Can you tell us a little bit more there?
Yes, this year with the Moonshot School, we have demonstration classrooms, and we purposely call them demonstration and not model classrooms because they are very open to learning and feedback. And, we don't always implement things perfectly every time. So we were very purposeful in how we named them. But what we do with our demonstration classrooms, we have 9 on campus, and it's an opportunity for other teachers to be able to come in and see what does the actual collaborative planning look like implemented in another classroom, especially for teachers that are still kind of on a new learning journey with the science of reading, and what does that look like and sound like. Seeing it with their peer, with alike students is really powerful. And we're actually seeing a lot of impact from that. A lot of instructional practices that are improving because they are able to see other teachers and they walk with the coach. So the coach brings them in, and it's a side-by-side coaching opportunity while they're in the demonstration classroom. And we also have them lead some of our professional learning opportunities. So if they're doing something that is really making an impact with their students, we have what we call Moonshot Mondays here. And it's an opportunity for them to facilitate a quick little mini professional learning and to their peers. And it's funny because when it is peers that are facilitating, you seem to have more buy-in with the teachers and you have more attendance, and they want to come because this is an after school space, and partnering with the Learning Alliance, they pay. So if they do stay, they get a little incentive to stay and learn. And then the coaches are there as well so that they can continue to follow up with that coaching. Also, with our demonstration classrooms, we are open doors. So anyone can come. We've actually had 2 huge district, state, actually national visitors come to tour our school twice now, which is great because we're getting feedback from experts in the field on, oh, wow, you know, that looks like it's really working. And have you ever thought about this? So we're always open to that learning journey as well. And then we have this space that the Learning Alliance helped create for us, where it's not just a classroom. Actually, I could probably take my computer and show you because we're in this space, but it's has tables, different seating different seating arrangements, and a fridge and a coffee maker, because we thought if they could come to a space where they can be comfortable and really have great conversations and professional learning in a space that is just comfortable and I would say innovative because we're outside of the classroom. But we have this space for them. And I want to back up a little bit because I think there were some questions before about some of the work with coaching. We actually are very unique here. We have a coach per grade level in kindergarten through 3rd grade. So they are really able to structure their time and focus in on one grade level. And we also have an arts integration coach here. And so our literacy coaches are really focused in on the foundational piece and the skills side of our curriculum, which we use Amplify. But our arts integration coach, she's very knowledgeable as well in the science of reading, but yet she helps with a lot with the language piece of the rope and really showing teachers there are engaging high yield instructional strategies that you can use within this space to really engage all kids in multiple different learning ways and opportunities to showcase their work. But a question was asked, well, how do you know about impact? How do you measure that? How do you collect that? And our district has created an impact tool, which has the 6 high yield strategies of collaborative planning, standards-based instruction, formative assessments, differentiation, engagement, and learning environment. And then those indicators underneath of what that looks like in the classroom. And then our coaches are really instrumental in helping teachers really be evident in those practices and grounded in the science of reading. So we do weekly walkthroughs with feedback cycles. And our teachers, they get that kind of, hey, wow, this was evident. This is what we saw you doing. And then, hey, here's a doable next step for you. And it's just focusing on maybe one piece of the puzzle. And then coaches are there, as Kira was saying, in that supportive, non-judgment, hey, I'm here for you, side by side for you role. So.
All right, excellent. Thank you so much. And similar to the students, you know, they want to know they're doing well. And so all these assessment tools are going to be very, you know, key to them understanding and solidifying their learning and just feeling a little bit more confident. Thank you so much, Leslie. Just, you know, a lot of great conversation around teachers, professional development. Just knowing that differentiation is going to be key here, where we have educators coming really from different, you know, aspects and experiences and careers into wanting to support and help the shortage that we're, you know, that we are experiencing, but also our most valuable teachers or veteran teachers are looking for something exciting, right? And they want to adapt and they want to do better and they want to learn more. And so all of these people here today and all of the organizations that are supporting just the great work and continuing literacy is just phenomenal. So I commend everybody for all the work and just the partnerships that you have and just, you know, similar to how Cindy was saying, you know, just opening your doors. If somebody's curious about them, reach out or let them in. Or if you're curious about them, you know, what's going on over here, you know, in Jefferson or you know, in Houston ISD, what can you tell me about what's working? That's what people want to know. So we're going to open up this time now for a little Q&A. And so I know there's been a lot of amazing questions being asked already. And so we are going to just give the panel a little bit of a breather here for a little bit, but also I'll go ahead and start a question. One of the first ones that we have, again, extending on differentiation. What are you all doing as far as, you know, English language learner populations, you know, dual languages is all, you know, just flourishing, and also with special populations, how are they being served?
I'm happy to take the start on this one. I'm not sure that that we had a lead on this one, but I will tell you that one of the things that I talked about earlier is our research advisory board. And one of the things they help us do is problem solve with populations of students who don't learn, have different ways to learn. And those include our multilingual learners, those include multidialectal students. Those include our students who might have characteristics of dyslexia or learning difficulties. So one of the things we do is we ensure that all of our coursework is embedded with tips and strategies to serve all of these all of these dynamic communities, because we want to make sure that no teacher has a student under their care that they don't know how to reach. So we make sure that we modify and include all of the instruction necessary for every student in your classroom so that teachers feel equipped and supported, and they feel empowered to try different strategies after they've gone through professional learning. And again, that's thanks to our excellent content and our connections to the latest research in the field. And some of the best researchers across the country have given input and co-authored some of our courses. So I think that staying on top of the research is one of the most important things you can do to reach all students in every classroom. And I'm sure other people have on the panel have some responses as well.
Thank you. I'll add my 2 cents here. I think that for our department, as far as bilingual, multilingual department, we were always happy to collaborate within another content area, right, with math or with science. And so there's always going to be that level of eagerness by the departments to, you know, to work together. And appreciate you taking that question on, Cindy. Did anybody else want to add anything from the panel before we move on to the next question?
I'll jump in quickly just with agree with everything Cindy has shared, and just name that there is a misconception that somehow the science of reading just doesn't apply to multilingual learners, and it's such a big misperception. And one of the things that came out in our survey was how many teachers felt like they were not trained at all in actually this particular area of how to sort of enable the science of reading to sort of meet unique needs. So clearly, we know there's incredible examples on this call where that isn't happening, but we know this is an area where teachers are actually asking for more support.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. We're going to move on to the next question. We're doing pretty good on time. How should states, districts, or schools go about identifying high quality professional development partnerships? And I believe Jill or Leslie, if you all wouldn't mind sharing here.
So we are still in the process of identifying those vendors to assist us in that process. We have worked solely with instruction partners, and I'm not just naming them to name one particular company, but we need to make sure, and I think that the conversation may be, you need to make sure that the vendors are providing high quality professional learning. So I think the discussion is, what does the process look like to vet the vendors who are providing high quality professional learning? I think that we need to twist our hats just a little bit to think about how are we also, we can vet high quality instructional materials, but we've also got to vet our high quality professional learning. So we have to have a process where those vendors are vetted. I mentioned earlier that I have a lot of conversations with vendors who are actually on our approved list, and we have those vigorous critiques, those courageous conversations. And so being willing to have those conversations, but also being willing to create those rubrics where you don't find yourself just listing the things that you want, but you also find yourselves listing the things that you don't want included within your professional learning, and making sure that your procurement process is tight so that when you do identify who your vendor is, that you know that you're going to be speaking the same language.
That's very important because PD doesn't look the same everywhere, and your vendor is going to have a different lens. So thank you for calling that out, Jill. I appreciate that. Did anybody else want to add a little bit there?
Just full disclosure, Jill, I sit on the Instruction Partners board, and so glad to hear that you're excited about that work and that it's working. The only thing I would add as an additional point is ongoing professional learning that's led by teachers using the principles of high quality continuous improvement is just something I would continue to add to the list.
Thank you. So we talked about educators and their needs. What about the coaches, right? What skills does the coach need to be effective? I know in some instances, you pick a teacher that's pretty solid, getting results for the kids, follows the protocol, follows the strategies, performs well, but coaching is a skill, right? So what do they need to be effective?
We can start with this one if that works. With our district, we actually have a coaching academy that teachers can apply to while they're still in the classroom. And it's an ongoing professional learning for them at the district level. And then we continue once a month to have coaches meetings, which the DOE comes in as well. And our coaches that are currently coaches are going through the Florida Department of Coaching certification that's led by some of the Just Read DOE reps. And so they get a whole certification from the state of Florida for coaching as well. And then we continue to build up their knowledge and skill through different professional learning. All of our coaches here at the Moonshot School, they have all gone through the AIM pathway, literacy practicum. They're also being trained in the Wilson curriculum, so they continue to build up their knowledge and skill as well.
And that's a really important question, because I think it is important to continue that education for all of us. How do you continue the learning and create a culture of learning and support each other in that? We also do send them out to national conferences or state conferences, an opportunity to, sometimes you get so in the weeds and so what's in front of you, to kind of lift your head up and look around and maybe get a different perspective on things or reassurance of what you're doing and how you're doing. But everybody needs a coach. High performing teams, high performing businesses have coaches, and coaches need coaches as well. So it's like we said, this is a systemic model all the way up, all the way down, inside and out, with the focus on what's best by kids, all kids, and how do we have instructional excellence in service of that.
Just to piggyback off of that, if I can, making sure that you are training your coaches to be able to work with adults. Like, what are the effective coaching characteristics that a coach should embody? Because I have found that in my past few years, just because you understand the content, or even if you understand the science, that does not always necessarily mean that that transfers into a strong coach. And so both Liz and Leslie alluded to this, that monthly coaching support. It can't always be on content. Sometimes it has to be on coaching. What do coaching scenarios look like? How do I make sure that my coaches are being built, their coaching is being built, their skill is being built? And so we also have Literacy Coach Academy of Mississippi, which is a one-year academy for school-based coaches. So we put that on for school-based coaches to attend from the agency. but we too provide coach training twice a month to our MDE state agency coaches. And we use books like The Heart of Coaching or The Rise of the Coachable Leader. We've brought in really great speakers to make sure that we're building up our coaches on courageous conversations. We have to make sure that when we support, it doesn't always feel good, but how do you make sure that you have that rapport and a relationship to have that 360 feedback? So making sure that at the center of it all, that you do not ease up on coach training, because we have to make sure that those skills are at the ready at any time of any day.
Yes, I'll chime in very quickly. Just, when specifically thinking about teachers leading professional learning communities or teams of other teachers engaging in continuous improvement, a few things that we've learned is they need to be just very carefully selected. We've spoken extensively to the training and the support needed, and three things that we would co-sign on what's already been said that we've also found. One is just effective facilitation of adult learning, as Jill just spoke about, and meeting facilitation, something that people sort of think you could just wing, but there are actual principles for how to hold a high quality meeting and facilitate effectively. That's key. Training around just data-driven decision-making is one of the things that we have prioritized, and as in all things, just a prioritization and an understanding around being able to spot trends in equity and inequity that coaches need to also have as well.
Right. It's some of the soft skills too, right? That need to be there, but you need that constant feedback to know that you're on the right path and that it is absolutely, productive when you do meet. The more productive that we are, the faster we can move forward and be successful. So thank you for that response. The next question here is about what about barriers, right? So what are those barriers to effective implementation of professional development? Like, we have these great ideas for how to set it up, how it's structured, what, who needs to be taught what, but what are still those barriers?
I can go ahead and get started here. I think that we've touched on many of the barriers today, and some of those barriers include lack of coaches, the teaching profession crisis that we're in right now, the overwhelming feeling that many teachers have in classrooms right now because there's so much on their plates. I think one of the biggest barriers that we see with our company is time. If teachers aren't provided intentional, purposeful time to engage in professional learning, they are not going to be successful as if they had to do it on their own. So having that time carved out in a schedule has been proven to be very effective. And I'll tout out one of our partners, again in Louisiana, Jefferson Parish Schools. They did a great job by carving out time or providing stipends for teachers or just giving a little extra for teachers who are committed to really learning this powerful information about learning that is not easy. If you come from a background where you don't have any prior knowledge or any history on how children learn to read, it is a heavy lift. So I think barriers are time. That's huge. I think lack of coaches, lack of leadership. Sometimes leaders are overwhelmed as well, and they don't know where or how to place a priority from a district initiative or a district strategy. When we all know that reading is that foundation. If we don't have solid reading instruction happening in all classrooms, our other strategic goals are going to be compromised. So we want to just make sure that those barriers are seen and leaders and teachers don't back away from them, that they face them head on to tackle them so that all students have that access to a high quality teacher who knows how to teach the science of reading basics.
Thank you, Cindy.
I'll just say, I think we do ourselves a disservice if we think that the only barriers that stand in the way of success have to do with technical solutions, right? There are a wide range of technical solutions, challenges, and we've spoken about many today. I would argue there's equally as many adaptive challenges that teachers have to overcome and face in order to make progress here. Notions about their own, we're asking many teachers to relearn things they thought they learned and knew and mastered. And now we're saying, well, actually, no, there are other ways to basically make progress. And that gets at teacher psychology. That gets at like how people see their own identity and their own roles, right? And so one of the reasons why, I know I keep saying this, but we believe so much that there are important roles for other teacher leaders to play is because they are uniquely positioned to help other teachers overcome the emotional hurdles that often stand in the way of actual progress here.
Kara, we couldn't agree more. Yeah. But it really, I think that's why having these demonstration classrooms as well, having just that open door, yes, come in, see, you'll see the good, the bad, and the ugly, right? I mean, and you can learn from it and reflect on it, but it's having that peer-to-peer,
the social learning, like
yeah.
you said, and accountability to the learning and to each other.
And it goes back to data. I mean, our demonstration classrooms have amazing data. So I think when you can show the impact too, then it kind of tells you, oh, well, what are they doing? I want to do that too. I want like someone said earlier, all teachers have the best intentions and they want the best for their students. So it's powerful.
Thank you for that. And I guess our last question extends on that, just on assessment, right, and evaluation. How do we identify what professional development will be effective or is needed? So, with shifts, so if something's working, if it's not working, where do we make those changes and how do we move forward?
We were actually able to capture pretty early on the impact of our statewide literacy training with our partnership through the Rural Southeast. And I do have a slide on that. I don't know if that's something that y'all are interested in, but it basically looked at the quality of instruction, how student achievement or engagement increased, and then also teaching competencies. And so our coaches were trained with, that's our report card again. Our report card just wants to be shown. That's not the slide, but our teachers, our coaches were trained in what to look for during classroom observations. So after they received this professional learning, they went through a very rigorous training from the Rural Southeast on what to look for through classroom observations. And we found that after a year of the science of reading training, our quality of instruction increased from 31 to 58%, tangible data. Our student engagement increased from 37 to 53%, and our teacher competencies increased from 30 to 44%. And we even, when our coaches were being trained, we visited the same classrooms, we compared analysis to make sure that the professional learning was actually being beneficial. And that was all based on our first 2 years of the science of reading training. So we have data in a research study, and I'm sure someone will drop that link in on how did teacher knowledge of early literacy skills change practice with coaching. And so those two pieces, we have the data that shows that over a 2-year period of time.
Thank you, Jill. And data, again, data-driven instruction, data-driven, choices for professional development to enhance instruction is always going to be, at the forefront when folks are contributing funds to a program or an initiative. And it's very, very important. So thank you for that. Did anybody else want to add a little bit more there?
Yeah. So yeah, just to piggyback on that, we do, again, the work that's going on here is very systemic and very intentional. So the district does capture not only an incredible using Power BI forward-facing data on students, but we also have the data on teachers as well. And that is available in terms of where they are, how they're doing in terms of this impact walkthrough tool, and the things that across the district, every classroom, every grade level is looking for as these high yield strategies. So there's data on that to start trying to really look at, that PD to practice to performance. one of the things that we have here that I think would maybe speak to the power of this, you know, these systems to support and the resources to support this kind of change is we've always been a B district. This past year, we became an A district. We're ranked 13th in the state of Florida out of 67 districts. We just got word this past week that we are 5th in the state for 3rd grade reading. And for K to 12, we are ranked 13th. So we have kind of gone through lots of iterations of trying to do things. And I think this data-driven, accountable learning culture around instructional excellence has everybody, you know, all hands on deck. And I think we're seeing this kind of rapid acceleration of the growth in student achievement.
That's amazing, Liz. Congratulations to that. I know that's always a huge effort and lift. And so I commend your team for doing a fantastic job there. That wraps up the last question that we had here. I just want to say that this has been an incredible honor to be here with this, you know, this panel. It's a very special and personal place, a teacher's classroom. And so the way that we go about coming in and offering recommendations or suggestions is, you know, not easy to think through. And, you know, today you have this lovely panel here that gave you so many great strategies and examples of how, you know, they're getting it done for their respective states and schools. And so we're just incredibly grateful for you all giving us time and expertise here today. Teachers are definitely a little overwhelmed right now, but I think if the messaging is correct and if it comes from a good place of just, you know, helping, you know, those think through moments and you know, opportunities for learning, I think that's going to be what they're looking for right now. And obviously, you know, always from dealing with their emotional state as well and coming at it from a sensitive lens. So thank you all for offering your insights and all of the great resources that are going to be shared with you after this webinar is over. Just a pleasure to be here today with you all.